I am very hesitant to say this, but I think I'm going to say it anyway. I think Amphibia will be my favorite show of all time. I think so. I'm going to talk about that a little bit in today's episode. This episode is going to be mostly a rant, sort of. You know me, very disorganized. If you're a recent subscriber, you know I'm a bit disorganized with my thoughts about this frickin' show. It has taken over my mind, just like the core has taken over frickin' Marcy. It's absolutely insane. So, as of today is the 21st as I'm recording. I'm uploading this on the 22nd, and tomorrow, the 23rd, we are going to have 2 new episodes of Amphibia. That, of course, being Newts in Tights and Fight or Flight. So this is being recorded before those 2 episodes are coming out. So we don't know too much about those episodes. It does have like a little about section. It says, while on a recon mission, Anne and Sprig confront an old mentor, Archie Yates of Jojo Rabbit, guest stars as Joey Potato, what? And Anne tries to rescue an old friend from one of King Andrias' robot camps. So I was thinking about this a lot recently. I was thinking about, just Amphibia in general, as I always am, because I'm constantly thinking about this show. And I feel like I have so much to talk about, and I could talk about the show for like 3 hours straight and not get tired. So I'm going to try and keep my points concise. And I think the first thing I want to talk about is the war. The war that we are about to get, and for some reason, haven't got yet. And also the worries of how much longer this show is going on. So, this show has confirmed that it is releasing its final episode on May 14th. It is going to be called The Hardest Thing, I believe. Yes, so let's list off the last few episodes that we have. So we have Newts and Tights, Fight or Flight. That is what we are getting this Saturday. Next week, we are getting The 3 Armies and the Beginning of the End. Then, after that, we are getting a very, very long 2 parts, I think it's 48 minutes or something like that. It's called All In. And then we have The Hardest Thing, the final episode of Amphibia, confirmed to be around a half hour long. And those are our last 4 episodes of Amphibia. Newts and Tights, Fight and Flight are, a combined, they're both going to be like 10, 12 minutes or whatever. Same thing with The 3 Armies and the Beginning of the End. But All In is confirmed to be quite long, and The Hardest Thing is confirmed to be around 30 minutes. So that is about how much content we have with Amphibia left. That's like 2 hours of Amphibia left. Around. That's 2 hours of Amphibia left. 2 hours, and this show is done. Think about that. Think about all the plot points that have not yet been resolved. Think about all the buildup of this show. It's all ending within 2 hours. And there's still more buildup. Newts and Tights and Fight or Flight, they both seem like buildup episodes. I don't know about the 3 Armies in the Beginning of the End. I'm sure that the Beginning of the End is going to literally just be the beginning of the end. Transition into All In, which is going to be the ultimate finale in my opinion. I think All In, we are going to be seeing almost all the plot points, the big battle. That's going to be the big battle episode where all your, super hard-hitting fights are going to happen. And then the hardest thing is going to be, the climax of the story and then how everything resolves. So I do have some theories about how I think the ending will go. Obviously, I know 100% of the time, I cannot predict what will happen. This show is far too clever for someone like me to predict what's going to happen. And it's just, I can't do that. I would need the brain of, 8 dead guys helping me out if I wanted to predict the end of Amphibia. But I want to talk about, first off, how much just time we have left. I've been seeing quite a few comments in my last few episodes about how people are worried that the show it doesn't have enough time. It doesn't have enough time to resolve all these things. And I say, I think it's plenty of time. I think a great example of that is at 2 different episodes. 1, True Colors, and 2, The Core and the King. Think about how much content is in those 2 episodes, and then look at their runtime. True Colors is around a little over 20 minutes, and The Core and the King is a little over 10 minutes. Think about how much content is packed in those 2 episodes, especially The Core and the King, just recently. Since that's the more recent topic, we can talk about that. We have Darcy voice lines. We have characterization and backstory for Andrias. We have Leaf and Beryl, and we have the lore behind them. And there's so much in that episode. It is 12 minutes. I had to rewatch that episode like 5 times, and I was still finding new things. There's so much in that episode. And in True Colors, that is such a good episode, dude. I remember when I was watching True Colors, it felt so long. I don't know how to describe pacing. I'm very inexperienced with what pacing actually is and how to notice good and bad pacing. You know, I guess, here's an example. I watched like One Piece. That has bad pacing. That is something I can identify. But I've heard people, you know, claiming that Amphibia has mediocre or bad pacing. Personally, I don't see it, but maybe I just can't identify it yet. But when it comes to pacing, the one thing that I noticed was True Colors. I felt that it was really well paced. Nothing felt like rushed. And I noticed one thing when I was watching it. I felt that right around the ending, or the ending of like the first part, when Sasha and Grime, where they're taking out Sasha and Grime, that felt like it was almost going to be the end. But no, we had like another 12 minutes left, and I was like, what the heck? I thought this was about to end. I thought we already spent 20 minutes doing this whole thing. But no, we had 12 more minutes left. And that 12 minutes, think about how much has happened in like the last part of True Colors. And that was, Andrias was only revealed to be, you know, the bad guy for like 10 minutes. He had barely 10 minutes of screen time to be the villain. And think about how well they executed that. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. And people are worried about All In and The Hardest Thing. All In is 48 minutes and The Hardest Thing is 29 minutes. That's a lot of time. That is a lot of time. That's an hour, that's around a little under an hour and 20 minutes. That's an hour and 17 minutes or something. That's a lot of time. Think about True Colors, how much they packed into True Colors. And then this is the finale of Amphibia. This is just absolutely insane because think about how much was built up to True Colors. There was so much buildup. Think about how much buildup there was even in the season 1 finale. There was so much just buildup. There's a lot of build up in Amphibia, and the payoff is absolutely insane. And now there's a ton of build up in season 3, but think about this. This is the last season, the last episode, the true finale of Amphibia. And think about the build up that has been building up, you know, the build up of the build up, you know, it's insane. Season 1 and season 2 is build up for season 3. Even though they had their own incredible season finales. You know, end of season 1 was a really solid turning point in Sasha's character arc. You know, we see her finally regret a decision. We see her finally experience growth from her manipulation. Obviously, she does, you know, kind of go back into it because she's known nothing else. There's nothing else she's known. So she kind of doubles down into her manipulation, doubles down into what she thinks she wants. And then at True Colors, and even a little bit afterwards, we find that that's not really what she wanted. And she wants to become a better person. And she has grown, which is like very good. I love Sasha's character arc. It's so good because it really does kind of exemplify a lot of things about the show, about how it's just a lot of Amphibia is about growth. And that's why I think The Hardest Thing is going to be absolutely insane. I'll talk about The Hardest Thing later. What comes at the end of growth is extremely bittersweet. I don't know. It's so much. There's just so much growth in Amphibia and setup, and there's going to be so much payoff. The creators and the people who have experienced the finale of the show have been hyping it up like crazy. They've been saying it's going to be or they've seen it before, and they're like, it's amazing. It's absolutely incredible. And that's why I think this is going to be my favorite show. I said that at the beginning. That is my claim of this video rant. I think it's going to end up being my favorite show. And I watch a lot of shows. I watch a lot of cartoons. I've seen some good animes. And I think this is just going to take the cake. I talked about this a few videos ago. I was saying that Avatar: The Last Airbender, you know, very well known for its incredible writing, incredible story, incredible characters. And I was like, oh, you know, I think it's on par with Avatar: The Last Airbender. You know what? In my opinion, again, I have to state that it's in my opinion, I think Amphibia might be better. I can't say that yet, but after I see this finale, and I know this finale is going to be good, I am extremely confident in the fact that this finale will be very good. I want to just say, I think it'll be perfect. I think it will be perfect, in my opinion. Again, you know, to each their own. Not everybody's going to be a fan of everything. I've even seen a lot of people say, I'm not even a big fan of Darcy. Personally, I don't see it. I don't see how you can't be upset with Darcy. I mean, Darcy's filling every single waking thought in my mind. I don't understand how people don't like Darcy, but then again, You know, it just comes down to a difference of opinion at the end of the day. But I'm just not worried about the amount of time that we have left. I am grateful for the amount of time that we have left with this show. And I'm sad that it is coming to an end, obviously. It's going to be very bittersweet. And for the record, I'm most likely going to be talking about the show a lot after it's still done. I still plan to talk about other shows, like I'm going to be talking about The Owl House still. I've been recommended to check out Craig of the Creek. You know, there's a few animes I want to talk about and such. Even some other TV shows like Ed and Eddie or... Oh, and Hilda. Hilda's so godlike, dude. I want to talk about Hilda so bad. That show's so good. But besides that, I'm still going to be talking about Amphibia even after the ending is over. Probably for a few months and just going on forward because I think it's just going to be my favorite show. I think it is. It's so good. And it's crazy. Again, this is very rant. It's very disorganized, so I apologize for that. I can't really help myself because I don't really have a direction with this video. I just want to talk about Amphibia, and it's bad. It's just, I need to expel these thoughts and just vomit them up, or else I will probably explode. I probably will. So, I guess I wanted to also talk about my first experience with Amphibia. So, I first watched The Owl House around 5 months ago. And I really, really liked it. I was like, oh, this show's so good. You know, I fell in love with the characters. And then I heard about this show, Amphibia, kind of like its sister sort of show. You know, after Gravity Falls ended, which was like probably my last sort of, you know, major invested show from like Disney Channel. I was like, I love Gravity Falls. After the ending of Gravity Falls, we were getting like Amphibia and the Owl House announced. And I was like, I don't care. It's not Gravity Falls. And I have this problem with shows, right, where I get into a mindset where I really like a show, and then it's like they have this follow-up show, and I'm like, I don't care about that. I care about this thing. And I feel like I might do that with like something else, except Amphibia is now the thing. So, for example, you know, think about like, I don't know, Star vs. the Force of Evil. I watched that whole show. I have mixed opinions on it. It's nowhere near as good as Gravity Falls, Amphibia, and the Owl House, in my opinion. I still like it, though. There's still good parts about it, but there's still, I don't know, a lot that I dislike. I kind of liked it. I liked season 1 probably the most. I think it was Ludo, whatever his name is, that little funny bird guy. He's the best, dude. I like him. He's funny. Like, I remember when I was like getting into that show or like watching it, I was like, man, I just want more Gravity Falls. Obviously, I think Gravity Falls ended perfectly, and it shouldn't have gotten any more content. Like, it's perfectly, it ended perfectly. It doesn't need any more content. The show needs to end there, or else it'll become a freaking Family Guy or something. I don't know. I remember I was just like, I just want more Gravity Falls. And then, you know, recently when I started getting into the Owl House, I was like, oh, this is so good. I'm super loving this. I'm super obsessed. And then I was like, oh, Amphibia, frogs? Really? I don't really care. I was like, I was kind of not interested in the whole frog dynamic. I was like, I just wasn't a big fan. I was like, they look fine. I don't know. I couldn't get into it. I wasn't a fan. So I put it off for a while, and I kept like, you know, obsessing over the Owl House. And then I was like, you know what? I'm bored. Let's give it a try. let's give it a try. And I watched the first few episodes, and I probably could have gone in with a more open mind. I really could have. But I remember I didn't like Anne. I didn't like her. And I think that was really bad for me at the time because I was just like, I don't know, dude. This show is like, I'm not a fan. I didn't like Anne. She was mean. You know, she was mean to Sprig. I was like, dude, the poor little Sprig's just trying to be a friendly person. Anne's like, no, this is how friendship works. You know, if you give someone, the whole shoes thing, it was like, oh, if your friend likes your shoes, you give them to her. If your friend wants to do this, you do it. And obviously, that is a result of that's like the result of Sasha's manipulation onto Anne. But I thought that was just how Anne thought. And I was like, that's just dumb. And I think it's perfect now that I look back on it because it's just all the characters, you know, the three of the Calamity Trio are incredibly flawed characters. And I think that's what makes them so incredibly deep, well-written, and lovable characters because they are so flawed. I think when flawed, I don't know, something that I have trouble when I write for like, or, you know, come up with, you know, original characters in my mind is I struggle coming up with like flaws for each character and still making them likable. I was like, well, I could make this person, you know, super aggressive, but how do I make them lovable? And like, that's the thing that I think Amphibia does really well is they show these characters with such, you know, bad flaws, but I think it goes back into Amphibia's sort of message about growth. You know, there's a lot of the messages in Amphibia, but I think a really, really big one is about growth as a person. And we see that through Sasha. We see that through Anne. Haven't really seen it in Marcy yet, but Marcy is, you know, a bit of a unique sort of spin on the whole growth thing because it's more of a refusal to grow and then realizing that you're going to have to, or else, you know, you will tear down the others around you. in a way. There's a lot more to it than that, but that's just part of it. Back to what I was saying, how I didn't like Anne at first. I was like, I just don't like this character. She's mean, she's selfish. Even in like the character, or even the show description, it was like selfish 13-year-old Anne transports to another world and gets along with frog people. And I was like, and the whole frog dynamic, I've never been, a big fan of frogs. I mean, they're kind of cute, but I was like, yeah, they're just frogs. I much prefer like little fish or birds, like cuter animals. Frogs aren't really like cute. They're just like, whatever, they're just frogs, okay. But over time, I was just like, okay, this is fun. Like, I think what really got me hooked in, which is like, it's another thing that makes me a little angry about it, is the comedy. The comedy. I was like, this show's funny. This show's freaking funny. And I think if it wasn't for Hot Pop, I was saying how before Marcy came around, Hot Pop was probably my favorite character, just because I liked him. Obviously, Hot Pop, I think, has gone downhill a little bit. He's coming back. He's coming back recently. But I think like season 3A, Hot Pop is like the cringe, the epitome of cringe Hot Pop or whatever. I don't know. Hot Pop in season 3A, I feel it could have been a lot better. I don't know. Maybe not a lot better. I don't know. He just feels so underutilized, I guess, because he's like a parent, but he just feels like, say what? He just feels like that. I don't know. Just feels dumb. But I think in season 1, Hot Pop was like, I don't. Threatening's not the word. Threatening Hot Pop, evil Hot Pop. But he was like, I don't know. He was a strict parent. And I was like, I vibe with this dude, Maybe it's just because I'm getting older or whatever, but I was like, yo, these freaking nerds, Ed and Sprig are lame. I like Hot Pop, dude. I liked Hot Pop. Again, maybe that's just me getting older, but I was like a big fan of Hot Pop. And like Polly was just like, okay, she likes violence. That's funny, I guess, But I think I was really happy that like Hot Pop was there, because if it wasn't for Hot Pop, I probably would have, I can't say I would have dropped the show, but I probably wouldn't have been like, oh, okay. I probably wouldn't have gotten more open-minded about the show. And then obviously as the show went on, we had those plot episodes. I think the episode that really kind of caught my attention, I think it was actually pretty early on, so maybe it wasn't just Hot Pop. I think it was the Sasha episode where we got to see Sasha, and I was like, okay, whatever, she's just a typical mean girl, And then I kind of saw the ending with like Rhyme, and I was like, okay, well now I'm interested in what Sasha's gonna do, because now she's teamed up with the Toads, and then we know soon that like the Toads, because we had like that episode where the Toads, come to Wartwood and make things bad, and then Anne finally, becomes one with the town by sticking up for the members of Wartwood, and that was like so good. And then we have like the episode with Sasha and freaking Grime teaming up, and it's like, oh, I can already see where this is going. Obviously, it's that sort of build-up that I was talking about earlier, and I was really, I was getting into it. I was like, okay, what's gonna happen when they meet? And a big question on my mind throughout entire season 1, I was like, where's the third girl? I was like, who the frick is the third girl? Where hasn't she showed up? And I remember even during like the season 1 finale, I was like, the third one hasn't showed up yet. Is she gonna show up? I don't know. I thought, when Sasha and Anne were like at the top, I thought like, maybe Marcy was gonna show up then. I was constantly thinking, when is the third one gonna show up? When's the third one gonna show up? She was constantly in my mind. I mean, now she's constantly in my mind for other reasons. Darcy. But even back then, I was like, yo, when is this person gonna show up? And I think that's what's really good. It's like that feeling of mystery. It's like, when is this gonna happen? Why is this happening? What is this? It leaves so many open questions that make you think. And, I love that. I love coming up with theories when I play like video games. I go through the plot, I'm like, oh, what's gonna happen? Why is this character doing this? And it's like, I love trying to predict what's gonna happen. People are like, oh, don't think about it so hard. It'll ruin the surprise. Just keep playing. And I'm like, I don't know, dude. I like trying to come up with theories, because I think I'm stupid enough to where my theories will never come true. Being stupid can kind of have a blessing sometimes, guys. Darcy brain rot, it helps. If I constantly think about Darcy, then I won't be able to think about a good finale for Amphibia. It just works out. But yeah, that was sort of my, beginning experience with the show. And then obviously, I watched through season 2, loved it, saw Marcy, I was like, oh, this is awesome, went through the temples, I was like, oh, it's just getting even better. It had more plot episodes as opposed to those little comedic episodes. And I don't dislike the comedic episodes at all. I think the show does a really good job with its comedic episodes, and even does a good job tying them into its plot episodes, like the frickin' Apothecary Gary episode. There's just like little things that they leave open-ended so that you can come back and, fill it in later. Like another thing, when, what is it, that stupid Grubhog? Oh, is that what it's called, the Grubhog? On Grubhog Day, when it's like, oh, the Grubhog got stolen by like a frickin' hawk or something, and at the end, the Grubhog's like, oh, or the bird's like, what do we do now, master? And the Grubhog's like, we ride to war. And I was like, okay, that's funny. I guess this is funny. And now I'm like, yo, there's a war coming up. What if the Grubhog rides into this war? Like, what if? What if he just comes? Even if he's just in the background or just there for one scene, I'd be like, oh! I'd be like that freaking, what is the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like pointing? I'd be like, oh, that's the thing from earlier. That's how I felt with Apothecary Gary, you know? When I saw freaking Jeremy, suck up the freaking Apothecary Gary goo, and I saw Apothecary Gary returning on the freaking Jeremy, and I was like, oh! That's it. That's the thing. That happened. Oh my gosh. I like how they just call back. It's like, you know how a lot of other episodes, I think even, for example, Gumball from Cartoon Network makes fun of this trope where it's just like a lot of the consequences of an episode of like a serialization TV show just sort of end when the episode ends. Like you could like destroy, you could have like your characters destroy an entire, city, and then the next episode is just fine. That's just how it works. Then Gumball puts a little comedic twist on the spin where, the family causes chaos throughout the episode and all the townspeople start getting mad at them and they start trying to invade their house, trying to, beat them down or whatever. And then Gumball's like, oh, the only thing that can save us is the thing that saves us at the end of every episode. What's it gonna be? And like the show just ends. And like, that's it. It's the end of the episode. That's the joke. Like, obviously, when I first saw it, I didn't get it. I was like, what? What happened? Is this a commercial break? What's happening? No, that's the joke. And it's so funny. It's so funny because the episode just ends, and that's the thing. That's what saves them, is the fact that whenever the episode ends, it's just a reset. And I like how Amphibia doesn't take that direction, where it almost feels like it should. It's like you see the frickin', uh-oh, the mushroom guy's still alive, oh no, and then it never returns. But it does! Amphibia is the only show that does that, to my knowledge. There could be other shows out there that do that. I'm not just aware of them yet, but I love that Amphibia does that. I was just like, oh, he's back. It's not just some one-off joke. He's actually back in the plot, and it's cool, and he could even, take over Darcy. I mentioned that in my last video, where I had the theory of Apothecary Gary potentially could take over Darcy, or at least, help Marcy get unpossessed by using his Apothecary Gary powers or whatever. I don't know. Very well could be a potential thing that might happen. Now let's see. Again, I'm just rambling on, everybody. This show is just too good, and I can't seem to organize my thoughts. I obviously could, but I simply do not have the time when I have to upload to like 3 other channels. It's kind of rough sometimes. I haven't slept in like 36 hours, but can you blame me? My freaking head is just filled with Darcy. Anyway, I think I wanted to talk about Sasha. Yeah, that's right. So I thought, I was seeing some criticism recently about how Anne and Sasha reuniting was rushed. I personally disagree. Obviously, we see Sasha at the end of True Colors, sort of have her turning point being like, yo, maybe this isn't what I wanted. And then a few episodes in season 3, we see that she goes to Wartwood and reads Anne's diary and, comes to regret her decision of what she's done and how she wants to be a person worthy of being Anne's friend. And I really, really like that. That's the direction they took with her character. And because she sees the consequences of what her manipulation actually does. At the end of the day, it's just going to push her friends away. And, she's not always in the right. She has to be the one in control. But like when she learns to let go of that sort of desire, then she can finally have a genuine sort of friendship. I love how the Calamity Trio's friendship is just so, do I say toxic? I think that's actually a good word in this scenario. It's so toxic. Obviously, it's so hard to explain their relationship to one another because it's not as if they don't care for one another, but they're all like incredibly selfish. And it's very hard to explain because it is so realistic. There's such complex written characters, and that's why all 3 of them are like easily my favorite 3 characters in the show. Marcy's my favorite, Sasha's got to be my second favorite character, and then Anne's probably my third favorite. They're all incredibly written characters, and like their friendship is so well written. It's so good. It is absolutely so good. But it's as if they have like these little checks and balances in the friendship. It's like, okay, well, here's the thing. We like Sasha likes us, but Sasha is our leader, She makes the rules of the sleepover. She's the leader of the band, Sasha and the Sparks or whatever? I forget. But she had her name in the name of the band, and we were just the side characters. It was all about Sasha. She called the shots, and they were okay with it for the most part. Obviously, they didn't like getting pushed around, but it's not as if they were going to defy Sasha because they liked her company. It's not like they dislike Sasha. It's not that they never have fun with her. It's just that sometimes it's just, it's more of just like a fear. It's like, oh, if we, retaliate against Sasha, what's she gonna say? Is she not gonna want to be friends with us? it's scary. It's scary because I feel that sometimes, that happens in real friendships where it's just one person will do one thing and you're gonna be like, yo, that's not cool, but you're scared to bring it up because they could get angry at you, and you just want to make things, you just want things to be peaceful, I think that's a natural thing that a lot of friendships have. You want things to be peaceful, and you'll pretend problems don't exist so that it's easier to get along. And I think that's one really good thing that Amphibia does with its, friendship between the Calamity Trio. And as we can see in the frickin' flashback episode with Sasha, that Sasha's, oh, and you don't need to go to that frickin' birthday party. It's lame. Just hang out with your friends. It's cool. That's the cool thing to do. Why is it cool? Because I said so. And, Anne obviously, probably feels, one, I want to hang out with Sasha, but two, I do want to go home because, she does enjoy her little, clown party birthdays with her parents. It's just such a weird thing to explain because if I put myself in Anne's shoes, I feel that I can find it so relatable. If a friend like that said to me, it's like, well, I do want to go to this birthday party thing with my parents, but I also don't because it's like, yeah, it's kind of embarrassing, but it's like, you like it because it's just like, it's what you've always done. It's comfortable. Not to say that it's like a bad thing or anything, but it's like, it's a nice little special time with your parents and celebrating your birthday party. And like, even though you're maybe like too old for it or whatever, it's special to them, it's special to you. If something's special to you, if you believe it's special, then that's what makes it special. Come on. When something's special to you, you like it, I feel that, my family and I still do like little, like little Christmas and Easter, like little holiday events that obviously we've probably grown out of. Like we still do like little scavenger hunts for like Easter eggs sometimes. I'm too old for it. Like I'm not super into it, but they think it's fun. And I'm like, I'm too old for this, but it's not as if it's not fun. Obviously I'm definitely way too old for this, but like, I think it's a special time. They enjoy it, I enjoy it. And even though it's embarrassing to admit to other people, it's something that I still like. And if a friend was like, oh, don't do that, that's stupid, that's lame. Even some of you out there are like, why are you doing little scavenger hunt for egg? I'm not doing like egg hunts. It's more like she puts out like little notes like, oh, an egg is like in the fridge, but it's a riddle, so it's like, oh, where's the egg? I don't know. It's like a nice little thing. I'm not gonna say I just like it because it is a fun time, even though it's something that I probably should grow out of. But if a friend were to mention that to me, like, oh, why are you gonna do that stupid thing? I would be like, it's totally stupid, but it's really important to them, so I just go along with it. That's what I would say. I could say exactly what Anne would, because it's like, it's just something that's special to you, and you don't want to give that up. But it's also like, oh yeah, it's kind of dumb, it just makes you wish you could have things both ways, but you can't. And then that sort of just, complex of things that you want everything to just kind of work out, and it's just like, listen, can you just like back off? It's weird because it's like, you don't want to take the blame and you want things to stay peaceful, because what Anne makes in that decision is like, hey, it's my parents, it's their thing, it's not me, it's my parents, put the blame on the parents. I don't want to, so that you don't think I'm lame, you think my parents are lame for forcing this onto me. That way you end up being the cool person, you're like, oh, I'm the cool one, it's not me. And things remain peaceful. You don't retaliate against Sasha, and you don't retaliate against your parents, things just remain completely neutral. And I think that's what's so good about where Amphibia really does give the chance for the Calamity Trio to grow, in that they are forced to change because their environments have changed. They have to adapt to this new place. They have to adapt to this new society. They are forced to change, even though, they weren't ready for it, because they were so set in their ways of like, let's just let's just maintain this friendship. Why? Because we like each other. Even though there's things that we can't get along with, we still like each other. And I think that's where Sasha's brilliance of the character fits in, where she finally realizes, hey, this isn't how friendship is supposed to work. It's a two-way street. It's not just, I don't know, it feels like it's sort of a two-way street, because like she does take things from Anne. She defends Anne from bullies or whatever. It's not as if she doesn't like Anne's company. She gets along with Anne. It's just that she always has to be the one in control, and she has to let go of that for their friendship to truly become genuine. And when they get back together in Commander Anne, I thought it was really, really solid. So people were giving some criticism. I know I went on a long rant there, but people were giving some criticism about how it felt rushed. It felt, like it felt forced or whatever. I personally disagree. Because in True Colors, we saw Sasha already starting to change right at the very end. We didn't get a lot of it because there was so much packed into True Colors and we couldn't really just focus on Sasha. But we saw how when they started fighting together for the first time, they started to change. Enemy of an enemy is my friend. And so when they were fighting together, now that they know they have a common goal. So when Anne meets up with Sasha, she obviously hasn't forgiven her, I think it's so good because when she meets her, the first thing she does, she gets excited. I think they get like a hug, like a nice little reunion. And it's so nice because it's not, a lot of people are like, oh, they're going to expect Anne to be mad at her, which clearly in True Colors, she was when Sasha, finally reveals her true colors, to be evil, quote unquote. I don't know, to reveal her plan. Anne was extremely mad. She was embarrassed that she trusted Sasha again. She was furious. She was so angry. But when she saw that Sasha was like, hey, I'll help you out of this because we both have a common enemy now, they were able to put their differences aside. And that's what I really like, is because when Anne first, it's also just the growth, Obviously, in the moment, Anne is super upset. But when she takes time to think about it, it's like, what's more important? Yelling at my friend for betraying me? Or getting her back home and, just putting our baggage aside for now. That's what I really like. When they were talking down in the Planter family tunnels, one of the first things was Anne was like, oh, awkward, about what happened, about what we said to each other. And then Sasha immediately goes like, hey, I'm a different person now. Obviously, Anne doesn't have any way to trust her. She doesn't know. She doesn't know if she can trust her. But it's not as if she has a choice, right? She's seen what Sasha has done. She's become the leader of Wartwood. She's going against King Andrias. She has the same exact goals as Anne does. They can work together. And they're like, oh, we can find the same side. And it's like, why would Anne not trust her? There's proof. There's proof that Grime and the frogs are getting along like they didn't used to in season 1. There's proof that they're fighting against Andrias. There's like a Wartwood can vouch for that, I think that's a really good thing. Maybe if it was just Sasha by herself, it would be a little bit more complex. But when she sees all the people she loves in Wartwood fighting alongside, led by Sasha, it leads her story to be more believable. And what I really like is that it's not just done immediately. They're like, all right, listen, you know what? We can find the same side. Let's put our baggage to the side.
Thought we could be on the same side for a change.
Totally. We'll work out our own baggage later.
That was one of the words. I forget exactly what it was for sure. But they were saying like, hey, let's set aside our stuff for now. Like our emotional baggage, let's put that at the side. There's more important things. Let's fight together right now against Andrias. And they're like, okay, let's do that. And that was it for now. And I was like, that wasn't it. That wasn't them, making up. It's actually a slow sort of, rebuild of trust. I still don't even think 100% that they've gotten back to where they were. Obviously, we see in one of the later episodes when they do their little signatures together and they're like the co-leaders of the army. That's them, after a few days or several, missions where they've, built up trust again. But I like later in this episode when Sasha is like, no, I don't want the frickin' helmet. You have to be the leader. And Anne accuses her of thinking it's a new type of manipulation. Obviously, right there, we see Anne hasn't completely, regained her trust. It's the same thing that we saw back in the first temple with Anne and Hot Pop. When Hot Pop, buried the music box, lied about it, Anne wasn't completely ready to forgive Hot Pop. Now, maybe it's because she's already been through it, maybe because the stakes are much more higher than in the first temple. They kind of have to, they're forced to get along, whereas in the first temple, it's like Hop Pop doesn't really need to be there, so it's a little awkward. The stakes aren't as high in the first temple, but since the stakes are much higher now, since a war is right around the corner, she's more willing to, accept Sasha because she needs Sasha. She needs her strength, her leadership, her, experience in the combat and stuff. And when she sees Sasha, giving up her leadership position, she's so shocked, like, what? Sasha would never do this. Is this some sort of new manipulation tactic to get me to fail? And it's like, no, Sasha was being genuine when she's like, just screams out, last time I took control, I ruined our friendship. And then Anne immediately is like, oh. She's like, oh yeah, that's right. That you kind of did. And she can tell that Sasha feels bad about that. It's genuine. Because you could just see it. You can't see, that doesn't look like the face of a liar, She's not really emotional manipulation, she's more of like a logical manipulator. We haven't really seen Sasha completely like emotionally manipulate people. Maybe in some cases, I feel like it's more leans toward logical, where it's like, hey, you know, I'm fine. Obviously, she did have to act, like with the party episode where she had to like act, you know, not getting mad at Sprig or whatever. You could just tell when she was manipulating. Obviously, maybe that's just so that we as the viewer can understand that she's manipulating them. But in this episode, it feels far more genuine, and I feel like Anne can tell too, you know? I feel like Anne's smart enough to just kind of recognize that, like, hey, there's so many reasons of why we need to get back together. Obviously, work together to defeat Andrias, but that there's value in our friendship still. You know, obviously, we had our mistakes that we've made, but we can still be friends. It's not as if, like, you know, that one thing, it's done, it's over. No, she gives Sasha a second chance, even though it's like her third chance at this point, but... I just really like, because it just feels honestly natural, where in the next episode, Sasha's Angels, where Anne starts questioning Sasha's leadership and being like, yo, I know they're just like frogs to you, they're just random soldiers, but to me, they're everything. You know, they're my friends, they're my family, whatever. And then Sasha's like, hey, listen, I get it. They're my friends too, we've been through a lot together. And like, it's just, you see the Wartwood people, they're all like, yeah, we have. And then Anne just sees like, oh yeah, Sasha is really, you know, become sort of friends with the Wartwood people, which is not something she would have seen Sasha do earlier. I don't know. There's just so many little things where it shows that Sasha has changed, and Anne just, you know, takes hold of that, believes in it, and she believes in her friend, and they can finally, you know, slowly work together that trust again. I like how in, like, you know, the first episode, Commander Anne, it shows they still have, you know, they're still working things out. It's a little shaky, you know, it's pretty shaky actually with the whole. Is it just a new manipulation tactic? Then in Sasha's Angels, it's like, it's like it's bonding there, but like they're getting back together. But it's like, I don't know, Sash, listen, are you sure about this? Like, come on. It's like she's questioning it because in the back of her mind, she might not say it out loud because again, she's designing the whole peaceful situation. She wants to maintain the friendship thing, but she's still, you know, it's weird. There's so much development there because obviously, again, it's sort of the peaceful thing. Like I was saying earlier, you want to maintain that peaceful friendship. But she's just sort of being passive in her questions, like, hey, listen, I'm not defying you. It's sort of like a middle ground. It's like, I'm not defying you outright like I needed to in frickin' True Colors, but I'm not, you know, giving into whatever you say. I'm questioning you as a fellow friend because I have my doubts, and it's like maybe Sasha's, you know, not super into the frickin' Wartwood people. She just uses them as soldiers. You know, maybe she hasn't completely changed. Or at least, like, maybe there's still some things about her that she needs to change. And no, obviously, Sasha, you know, is close to the people of Wartwood, and she treats them like her friends, and I really like that. And then Anna's like, okay, yeah, I get it. And then, you know, throughout, like, the next few episodes, we see, like, little tidbits of them being pals, working together. And, you know, obviously, like, it's always that one thing. It's like, you know how there's always like the joke about how much love happens in movies where it's like, oh, the two people that are in a crisis, they fall in love because crisis makes people fall in love or whatever. I feel like it's the same thing, not the love or whatever, but like the same thing was like when it comes to bonds, you know, it's like Fire Emblem guys where you fight together side by side. It's the same thing, you know, Sprig and Grime. In Grime's people, they're freaking butting heads, they're not getting along, but the one time when they fight together on the same side against the weird bee things or whatever, I forget what they were. When they fought together, Grime was like, hey, you know, you're not bad for a frog. You have an annoying fighting style that's super dumb, but like you actually won. That was fun. And then Sprig was like, yo, you're pretty cool, dude. You're strong. And I think that's good because like whenever you see two people fight side by side, it's just like you fought side by side together already. You're kind of on the same side. You can have this common thing together. And I think that just reinforces the bonds of trust between Anne and Sasha once again, where, you know, their friendship is being repaired. And I feel like Sasha's character arc has already sort of happened. And what we're seeing here is the resolution of Sasha's character arc, where she still hasn't, like, she's still Sasha, right? She still has that Sasha-ness. I think a really, really good moment is, what was the freaking leader's name? I forget. But the leader of the Olms, not Mother Olm, but the leader, when she stands up to that Olm, I was like, that is such a good scene. Because it's Sasha, you know, being defiant against the leadership, you know, being, you know, wanting, not so much control, but like having a pretty much defiant way of like saying, this is how things has to happen. And it's still something like she would have done in the past, but it's like it's coming from a different source now, right? It's not as if like it's from manipulation. She's doing it for the greater good. It's like she's defending others, right? It's like, hey, come on, these people helped you out. You're dumb. It's so good. It's like that's still Sasha. It's not as if Sasha is a completely new person, you know? She still has things about her where it's like Anne was like, yo, don't yell at the freaking leader. You're gonna get us in trouble. But no, Sasha wasn't having it. She was like, yo, you suck. I'm gonna tell you straight up, you know? I really, really like that. I think that's a really, really good scene for Sasha. And I feel like this sort of ending, this sort of like resolution post-character arc Sasha, like I feel like she's already mostly had her character arc, and now we're just seeing like the result of that character arc and what kind of person she's going to be going forward. And I think that's really, really solid. And I think the one person who just hasn't completed their character arc yet is Marcy. I think Matt Bradley said at one point that Marcy never made any genuine connections in Amphibia, and I think that's really good because that is very much so the case. She treats the people of Amphibia, she treats the whole thing like a video game, sort of. That's not to say that her bonds were fake or the things that she would said are fake, and it's not as if she doesn't see people as her friends. Again, it's very complex writing that I think is very good. But it's as if, like, it's her escapism. Like, Amphibia is just this place where she can be whatever she wants. And I really, really like that. Where it's just, like, she treats everybody like a video game party member. Like an NPC. Or, like, a sort of... It feels like a video game. Like, a good example is when she meets the planters. And she's like, oh, I love the found family trope. Look at these guys. They're so funny. She treats them as just, like, you know... an NPC, like some NPCs, some friendly NPCs that Anne found, and that Anne is like, oh, Anne, you're my player 2, and Sasha is my player 3, and we're just gonna go on these adventures and talk to all these fun side questable peoples. I don't know. It's not as if she doesn't treat. It's weird. It's so hard to explain because it's so complex. It's not as if she doesn't treat the people as real people, but it's as if she doesn't see them as like. I don't know how to explain it. It's not like she wouldn't treat them the same as she would like a real person in the human world. She treats them as like how you would treat an NPC in a video game, as if you were giving them genuine respect, but also like being there with them. You know, like imagine how you treat NPCs in a video game, but imagine like you actually being there and like you just feel like, oh, this is just an NPC. It's like, yo, yeah, hey, Olivia and Yunan, you guys are my friends, haha. Let's go on adventures, woohoo! We fight together, woohoo! But it's not like as if that friendship is genuine or whatever, because it's not, you know, I don't know how to explain it. I can't. I'm not smart enough to explain it. I'm not. I'm hoping that I can at least convey what I'm thinking. It's really hard for me to explain because Marcy is just such a complex character, and I think she's so cool. She's just so cool. And I really want to see how, you know, they take Marcy going forward, because obviously at the end of True Colors, she finally realizes that, like, this isn't a game. She was betrayed by Andrias, the one person she thought she could trust. You know, she opened her heart up to Andrias during Flipwart about her struggles. And it's like, that's something that you would do to, like, I don't know, maybe in like a game, it's like, oh, you know, my morale is down, you know, what do I gotta do to get morale up? Talk to a friend, haha, task complete, now we're friends. It's like, it feels like it's just like a thing of a video game. I feel like she just treats a lot of Amphibia like a video game. And that, like, Anne and Sasha are her player 2 and player 3 on her adventure with her. And, like, you know who dictates all the decisions in a video game? It's the player 1. The player 2 and the player 3 always go along with what player 1 says. It's like, hey, I did this for us. You know, look at this stuff that I gave you. I gave you Sprig because I brought us here. I did that, you know? And then I just think it's so good how Marcy realized the error of her ways. And it's so, because I feel like she's, deep down, she always knew. I really do. But she just, like, she was just so enamored with Amphibia that she just couldn't really bring that up to herself, I guess. Obviously, she was like, oh, well, how are my friends going to react when I realize I brought us here? But it's like, you know, she saw how her friends grew, and she was like, oh, they grew as people. It was a good idea to come here. If we go on more adventures, we're going to continue to grow as friends. We're going to have more crazy, fun times and adventures together. Nothing has to change. And I love that. It's so good. It's so good. And then, like, at the end of True Colors again, she finally realized, like, hey, this isn't just some game. These people are real people with real lives. They're not just scripted events. They're not just NPCs that just have been put here for you to interact with. They all have their own lives. They all do their own things. And I think Marcy, you know, sort of comes to realize that near the end when she's like, I'm sorry for everything. And it's so good. And even though Marcy has had pretty much next to no screen time besides in Olivia and Yunnan. And a lot of people are like, oh, I want Marcy back. I want to see more Marcy content. And don't get me wrong, I do too. I really want to see Marcy content. But I feel like a lot of Marcy content is going to happen in the last 2 episodes. So that is a good transition now that I've talked about the Calamity Trio for 20 minutes now, it feels like. I want to talk about the ending. So obviously, I've been having this weird thought. I think what's going to happen at the end is I'm really just kind of still theorizing what might happen for the final battle. I just don't know enough because we've been getting this huge build up to the war, right? We're getting so many new recruits. We got the Toad army on our side. We got a bunch of random villages that we were recruiting in the Root of Evil. We got freaking Apothecary Gary. We got this massive army, right? And then we have a new episode title called The Three Armies. So who's the third army? Obviously, we have Andrias and Darcy's army. We have the Resistance army. Who's the third army? Is it maybe the Olms? Probably not, because they can't come up to the sun. Is it maybe on Earth? Obviously, Darcy and King Andrias, they're ready to invade Earth. They're like, hey, we're going to do this. And even Sasha knows. She even was saying, in a recent episode, that, hey, if we don't act soon, they're going to start going to other worlds soon. We need to stop them before that happens. And, my main question is, I don't even know if Earth is going to take place in the final battle. Will they even go to Earth? Maybe the third army is Earth itself versus King Andrias and Darcy. I don't know how much Earth is going to take a role in the finale, because obviously everything that we've seen, a lot of Leaf's vision too. We see the moon coming down. Apparently it's the moon, not a meteor. I don't know how people know that, but apparently it's the moon. That's coming down, to crush Amphibia. I don't know if that's Darcy's plan. Probably not. I think there was a thumbnail that was oh, Darcy's plan, bring down the moon. It's why would Darcy want to bring down the moon on Amphibia? What does she gain from that? I don't know. There's just so much stuff, but it's just, I just don't know how the big freaking war is going to play out. Obviously, the Resistance has gained so many forces. And, we've seen Andrias' many Frobo armies, which it seems like all the Frobos die in one hit. But when you have that many Frobos, it's kind of insane. I just feel like they should just make more of that freaking Invisible Bot, whatever that guy was. That Invisible Bot was cool, I liked him. But just make more of him. All your Frobos are garbage, but the freaking Invisible Bot takes a lot of hits to go down, jeez. Anyway, but yeah, that freaking war is going to be happening very soon. And honestly, I feel like we're not going to see the war until the beginning of the end. So that'll be 3 episodes. So if we have 6 episodes, Newts and Tights, Fight or Flight, and the 3 armies, personally, I think that's all going to be build up. We are still going to be building up. And then the beginning of the end is going to be the ultimate sort of teaser. It's going to be this is the ultimate build up, the last things that we need to get done before All In. I think All In is going to be the true climax of Amphibia, where all the battles are going to take place. Darcy's going to have a ton of screen time. Marcy's going to be able to come back in All In. And I honestly think that whatever Amphibia's final battle is, I think it's going to take place in All In. Because I remember Matt Braley said as another thing, that the most important part of a story is the ending. And I feel like with a show like Amphibia, it's gonna have so many plot points to resolve. And obviously there are still gonna be some lost lore bits. We do have something that's releasing soon. Marcy's journal was confirmed to be in production as a merch thing that we can buy, and when we buy that, we can see the extra lore that goes into the show. I'm super psyched for that. I want to buy some more merch of the show. The only merch I have of the show is the Marcy pillow, and that's it. I plan on getting an Ann and Sasha one too, but I think they're not cheap, so I only have the Marcy one right now, and it's so soft. I love it. But I think All In is going to be the climax of the show. We're gonna have all 3 of the main trio using their calamity powers. We're going to see what the fate of Andrias is, whether he's freaking redeemed or not. A lot of people are yo, don't redeem Andrias. Or if you do redeem him, maybe have him fight on the side of the heroes, but he'll have to end up facing punishment. Andrias is just so complex. Obviously he's done some quite unforgivable things, like stabbing and possessing a child just for one thing. And many others, probably sending Beryl to his death. Making the society so bad against the toads and the freaking frogs. He's done some pretty unforgivable things. Obviously, I feel like he's going to be redeemed and then maybe we'll face punishment. Maybe, Andrias, you came through at the end, buddy, so we'll let you live, but you're going to live in the dungeon, and then maybe we'll come down and visit. We'll have a chat with you sometimes, but you're going to live the rest of your life, repenting for what you've done. Or maybe if they do anything else, they'll take the route of like, oh, I was a sinner in the past, I did bad things, but going forward, I'm gonna make the world a better place because I'm still alive or whatever. I don't know. They'll probably dethrone Andrias and like frickin' Olivia will become queen or whatever. I don't know. And then I also was thinking about how I saw some other people saying that maybe one of the Calamity Trio might stay in Amphibia, or maybe like one of the amphibians might come to Earth. I think if anything were to happen, I think Sprig would come to Earth. I think how it's gonna happen. And the hardest thing is, again, it's all resolution, the hardest thing. I don't think there's going to be any battle in the hardest thing. I think the hardest thing, it's named that because they're going to have to say goodbye. And maybe Sprig will go with Anne to Earth. I don't think so. I think they're going to, go their separate ways. That's just how it has to be, I guess. I don't know. As Luce says, the main character goes home in the end. Again, Matt Browley also did say, working on the show, he wanted to make sure he got, 3 seasons. That was his vision for the show, was getting 3 seasons. And he said that he did everything that he could to make sure that happened because it was his responsibility to get these 3 girls home. And that makes me think, okay, well, if that's your responsibility, then at the end of the show, you're most likely gonna have Anne, Sasha, and Marcy all end up going home. I feel like what's gonna happen, especially, is that Marcy is going to move. I feel like when she goes back home, she's going to accept moving away. She's going to have to accept it. And that's just part of the hardest thing. Probably Anne and Sasha will maybe stick together. Maybe they'll even drift apart. Who knows? I doubt it. I don't think they'll drift apart. I do think the Calamity Trio would just, how much they're reinforcing this friendship. They will never, go their separate ways. But I feel like, when it comes to life, at least what I've noticed is it's not as if you don't stay friends anymore. Maybe you branch off. Whenever a big thing is leaving for college. High school into college, you friends with these people for so long in your life, and then you all branch off into different things. And, maybe some people you don't connect with all the time. I still have a decent amount of friends that I probably haven't talked to in a couple years, and that I would like to see again, but maybe I never will. And obviously there's some ones that you have that are closer, and obviously I feel like Anne and Marcy are going to be the same way, but even those extremely close friends I haven't really talked to in 6 months. And even though I still consider them extremely close friends, and I probably only think about them maybe once or twice a month, sometimes. Yeah, maybe a little more than that. Maybe once a week or something. But I don't think about them all the time like I used to. It's not as if I don't consider them, my best friends. And I wonder if that's going to be the case with, the Calamity Trio, where, we're going to see them sort of drift apart. Marcy's going to move. Maybe she'll stay in contact over text. They'll FaceTime. They'll be like, hey, how you guys doing? We're still pals, but we're going our separate ways. And I feel like that's what we're going to see. I feel like with Amphibia's sort of growth, we might see, everyone sort of go their separate ways. And I almost teared up. I literally did. I literally almost teared up. Oh my gosh. I just feel like that's what we're going to see. And I just feel like that, with Amphibia's message of just growth, I don't know, maybe they will stick together. I don't know. It's really hard to predict. But I do feel like one thing that is almost guaranteed is that when Marcy comes back to Earth, obviously after reuniting with her parents, whatever, she's going to move away. And one of the last scenes probably in the show is we're going to see Anne and Sasha waving to Marcy in the car as she rides off into the sunset. I guarantee you that's going to happen, probably, unless Marcy dies. Oh, don't kill off Marcy, please. I don't think I could live with myself if Marcy died. But I swear that I can't see that not happening. I can't picture an Amphibia finale where Marcy does not move away and drive off into the sunset with, Anne and Sasha waving or whatever, promising that they'll always be friends or something. I can't see that not happening. Can you? What other fate does Marcy have? And the hardest thing, she's not going to be like, oh, Mom, I love my friends. Let's just stay here. No, that's not going to happen. That's not how life works. You kind of just have to roll with the punches sometimes. And, I don't know. I think that maybe is everything. Oh, I could talk on for so much longer. How long have I been recording? Please don't be an hour. Oh, it's been an hour and 2 minutes. Am I really gonna have to edit an hour's worth? I am. I haven't slept in 36 hours. We're not gonna sleep. Sleep is for the weak. The core never sleeps, guys. I'll become the core. I was saying how Darcy's possessed my thoughts. Maybe this is the way I become the core, by not sleeping. This is probably unhealthy. Don't follow my example, please. Anyway, I think I'm gonna end it there. And probably all this is going to be irrelevant by tomorrow, you know, when we get the new episode. I'll probably have a bunch of new theories. I'm going to talk about it 100%. Whatever. Let's just enjoy what little we have left of this show. I'm so psyched. I am so psyched. All right, that's it for me, everybody. I'll see you later.